Thank you for joining us for the story of Ruth, a time of sorrow. In an ancient time, when judges ruled the land of Israel, a shadow fell upon the town of Bethlehem. Not a shadow of war, but of hunger. A devastating famine gripped the land, turning fields to dust and hope to despair. For a man named Elimelech, the choice was unbearable: stay and starve, or leave the only home he had ever known. With his wife Naomi and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, he looked east, to the foreign land of Moab, hoping for survival. Now, in a foreign land, a deeper loss. In Moab, they found refuge. The years passed, and Naomi's sons took Moabite wives, Orpah and Ruth. For a decade, this foreign land was their home, but their brief season of peace was not to last. Tragedy struck not once, but 3 times. First, Naomi's husband died, then her sons. She was left a widow, without her children, in a land not her own. She had left Bethlehem with a full family, and now she had nothing. The crossroads of loyalty, hearing that the Lord had provided food for her people again, Naomi decided to return home. She urged her daughters-in-law to go back to their own families, to find new husbands and new lives. After much weeping, Orpah made the sensible choice. She kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and walked back toward her past. But Ruth refused. She clung to Naomi, making one of the most powerful declarations of loyalty ever spoken. This was more than just loyalty. It was a complete grafting of her life, her future, and her faith onto Naomi's. And so, the two women, one old and bitter, the other young and steadfast, walked on to Bethlehem together. Scene 4. Gleaning in the fields of Boaz. They arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. The town was buzzing with life, but for Naomi, there was only bitterness. She felt empty, cursed by God. But Ruth was a woman of action. She asked Naomi for permission to go to the fields and gather leftover grain behind the harvesters. By chance, or perhaps by something more, she found herself in a field belonging to a man named Boaz, a wealthy relative of Naomi's late husband. When Boaz saw Ruth, he saw more than just a poor foreign woman. He saw her character, her loyalty to Naomi, which was already the talk of the town. He offered her protection, water and food, going far beyond what was required. He had seen her faith, and he blessed her for it. Scene 5. A bold plan at the threshing floor. When Ruth told Naomi whose field she had worked in, a plan began to form in Naomi's mind. She saw a path to restore her family's name and secure Ruth's future. She instructed Ruth to perform a bold symbolic act. After the harvest celebration, when Boaz was asleep on the threshing floor, Ruth was to approach him quietly and uncover his feet. In their culture, this was a powerful way for a vulnerable woman to place herself under the protection of a kinsman. A formal request for him to be her kinsman-redeemer. Scene 6. Redemption at the gate. Boaz was a man of his word, but there was a problem. Another man was a closer relative and had the first right of redemption. The very next day, Boaz went to the town gate and laid the matter before the elders. He presented the deal, the land, and the duty to marry Ruth. The other kinsman, unwilling to take on the responsibility, declined. To seal the agreement, he took off his sandal and gave it to Boaz. In front of all the elders, Boaz declared his intention to redeem the land and to marry Ruth. Scene 7. A new beginning and a royal legacy. So Boaz took Ruth as his wife, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The emptiness in Naomi's life was filled. The women of the town celebrated with her, saying, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has has not left you without a kinsman-redeemer." And they named the boy Obed. This is where a small story of loss and loyalty becomes part of a much grander story. For Obed would become the father of Jesse, and Jesse would become the father of David, Israel's greatest king. The story of Ruth, the faithful foreigner from Moab, reminds us that no life is too ordinary and no person too insignificant for God to use in His magnificent, unfolding plan. It shows us that in the middle of our darkest famines, acts of loyalty, kindness, and faith can plant the seeds for a harvest we could never imagine. Outro, thank you for watching. If this story of faithfulness inspired you, please like and subscribe for more stories from history and scripture. What part of Ruth's story stands out the most to you? Let us know in the comments below.